This video is brought to you powered by my Patreon backers across Patreon and YouTube's little community bit over here. If you'd like to jump aboard what has playfully been described as a nihilistic cult in the worship of snarkasm, do click the link to either the Patreon or the community, which is in the description below. And while we're here, thank you so much to Kerry D, Sarah S, T-Rex, Chris D, Alex S, David V, Pingu, Stuart, Kai, Jeff M, Bo, Mojo Sabian, and then Peter Del Monte, Aaron S, Ned B, Simon F, Martin M, Rachel H, MJ Nichols, Paul W, Ian B, Encore une fois, my namesake over here, Aid, Cycletricity, Gareth J, and Tracy W. Tracy Dubs, what? And yo, ladies and gents, it's Friday night. What's happening? Welcome to another episode of Aid Thompson and Other Disappointments. What's going on, peeps? Let me just have a quick sip of my liquid patience. How are we doing, guys? What's going on? It's been a hell of a week, hasn't it? It's just me by myself, by the way, tonight. I'm guestless again. I'll come on to that in a little bit if you like. What's been happening this week? Should we just jump straight into it? Do you need any podcast admin? Do you need me to talk about the live chat and the super thanks and super chats and all that? Probably not. So we'll just get straight into it, shall we? Most of us would have to deal with we've had to deal with a lot of different conservative scandals this week, haven't we? This week, what's all the scandals that we've had this week? We've had the fallout from Mr. Rag. That was sort of last week's, wasn't it? Yeah, it broke late last week, and now we've still been talking about it this week. That was him sharing compromising pictures of himself, as well as phone numbers for a bunch of his colleagues. Then this week we had the Tory donor. This one sort of seemed to come and go very quickly. Fell away like in all of the noise of the other scandals. We had the Tory donor who gave Rishi Sunak all those private jet flights. Well, that guy, he's had his bank account frozen. He's had all of his assets frozen. I don't know what it's about, if it's some big corruption investigation, some sort of NCA sitch. But he's had all of his... It's not usually a good sign, is it, with that? Any other week, that would be the big story. But this week, then, what else do we have? We had Mark Menzies, that legend, who called up his elderly admin support lady from his local Conservative association. He phoned her up. She's like 73 years old or 75 or something. He phones her up and he demands £6,500 at 3 a.m. to settle a rent boy debt with bad people. And then later, he reimbursed her with campaign finance money. Allegedly. All of this is allegedly. None of it is proven. But it was in, I think, the Times the other day, right? And he did that thing where, he says, the story is littered with inaccuracies. And you're like, oh, really? Okay, which part? I'm not telling you. Donald Trump was in the news also this week, on trial for campaign finance charges also. And he took out time from calling Joe Biden Sleepy Joe to have a little nap in the courtroom himself. So that's been fun. Sturgeon's husband got rearrested, and that was also in relation to campaign finance abuse. So we've had Mark Menzies abusing the campaign finance coffers. We've got Donald Trump on trial for campaign finance charges. Then we've got Nicola Sturgeon's husband rearrested over campaign finance abuse. And then we've got Tory council leader Jonathan Nunn was forced to step down from West Northamptonshire Council this week for abuse of campaign Fine. No, it wasn't that really. It was. It wasn't. It was just good old domestic violence in his case. What else has been happening? What else are we depressed about, dear listeners, dear viewers? Thames Water is almost certainly going to be bailed out by the taxpayer now to the tune of £16 billion. How about that? What do we get for that? Absolutely nothing. We get further starved public coffers and the same Thames Water company that we always had before. Substandard, underinvested, except now we've paid $16 billion for it when we already paid for the company decades ago when we set it up with public money. So we spent the money setting it up, then we sold it off. Did we get any of them? No, we didn't. And now we got to rescue it again. So in a weird way, we've lost out 3 whole times now. So that's good. Thames Water, $16 billion. Oh, and more good news, obviously. That's what you guys come here for, right? In a gentle nudge to persuade people to rejoin the workforce, our Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has decided he wants to stop doctors from being able to sign you off in the first place. So that's a lot there, isn't it? That's a lot for 1 week, I think. I mean, it's quite clearly, it is a full plate right there. It's a full buffet of bellendry, which is, incidentally, the working title for Mike Graham's new podcast, I believe. But yes, anyway, if that all sounds too much, just think about all the scandals and incompetence and corruption I've just gone through, from here to the States with Trump and back again to Thames Water, all of this stuff. It sounds a lot, doesn't it? If it sounds a lot to you, then first just spare a thought for Dan Hodges, guys. Mail on Sunday starlet Dan Hodges, because we all think that was enough. All of those stories together. That was a full-on week for us, right? But imagine mentally juggling all of that and an imaginary scandal about Angela Rayner, which even now, he's still going. Every day, he's on day 14 now, I believe. Every day he pops on Twitter, he's like, day 12, still no word back from Angela Rayner. It's like, nobody's listening to you, Dan. She doesn't care. None of us care. Have you looked out the window at the state of the rest of the country? Well, she hasn't been in touch with the Mail. She hasn't sent us any updates. No, because we're all busy, Dan. We got real stuff to worry about. So yeah, he's 2 weeks into a box set drama that doesn't exist, isn't he? That's what he is. He's the greatest fiction writer to ever write news. That's that's what Dan Hodges is. That's probably the award that he should have won at last night's press awards, I think. If you're listening to this or watching it, like, on Sunday. Last night, Thursday night, was the UK's press awards, guys. And maybe Dan Hodges should have won an award for being News's finest fiction writer. That's what I was thinking. Instead of... what did he win again? What did Dan Hodges win at the press? Oh, that's right, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Got himself all dressed up, did he? He was posting pictures of him in like a dicky bow with his mate, Glenn Owen, I think the guy's name is, the other male hack. And I don't think they won anything. Absolutely shocking. Robbed, I tell you. Seeing those two come away empty-handed. Right, do you know what it's like? Right. Do you know what it's like seeing those two not get the award, right? It's like, you know when Blur and Oasis were going for that number one? Do you remember that? way back in the day. When was that? It was, I guess it would have been 95-ish, maybe. Yeah, about 1995, I guess. And everyone thought Oasis had it in the bag, didn't they? It was Roll With It. And then Blur's single was Country House. Do you remember? This big, like, chart battle. Everybody thought Oasis was going to get it. And then in the end, Blur got it. And it's like that with the Mail on Sunday star columnist, isn't it? Because back when all of that was happening, Dan Hodges also didn't win anything. back in that chart band. Came away with nothing. Just like last night. So, yeah, there you go. How about that for a metaphor to kick us off with? I don't know if you guys saw... Did any of you, like, in the chat... or anyone listening to this who wants to tweet me back or whatever, did any of you guys catch up with the press awards? Is that like a big thing, or is it just news junkies like me who might check in on it? I mean, I know like there was so much else going on this week, wasn't there? There's so many scandals, so many big news stories breaking at once. I haven't even touched on like Iran and Israel yet. That was going off too. It's just a big news week, isn't it? So then like the press awards, trying to listen in on the press awards also is like trying to listen out for a doorbell in the middle of a crossfire hurricane with tinnitus. It's just, you're not going to... There's too much else going on. But if you didn't catch up on it, I think the Times won Best Front Page this year. Or maybe it was the Sunday Times. Could have been. Actually, maybe it was the Telegraph. I honestly can't remember. I remember reading whoever it was this morning. And I remember like looking at the front page, and then I remember thinking, this is the best front page, like for the last year. This is the one that gets the award, is it? Best Front Page, the Press Awards 2024. And I was like, oh man, I cannot believe that Leave Kate Alone didn't get it. I mean, I thought that was a shoo-in. I thought that was a cracking front page. That was a front page that just oozed journalistic integrity, I thought. It spoke for the nation. It really captured the mood. You know, I mean, everyone that I knew was rightly concerned where this absent princess was, why her ring was missing on that photograph, why the doctored photo in the first place. What's all these rumours about William and a mistress? And there was the Sun. Right there. Surfing that zeitgeist, wasn't it? Ignoring everyone. Ignoring everyone's concern. You know, ignoring their own history, where they have harassed and abused the royals. A princess, no less. And they ignored all of that. Instead, what they did is they called the public trolls, didn't they? They said, leave Kate alone. Kate is attacked by vicious internet trolls. So yeah, I thought that was a shoo-in for favourite bestest front page of the year. But evidently others feel differently. Quick sip of the old funny juice. And a big doff of the cap to those of you in the live chat tonight, the Patreons, the YouTube community members. If you found your way here from the alternative paper review, by the way, I put out a paper review every morning. For those of you who just do the podcast, I started doing a paper review on YouTube must be about 6 months ago now. So if any of you have found your way here because you saw the paper review and now you're like, okay, you know, I like the sarcasm. I like the snark. I'm here for the snarkade. You know, let me know. Let me know in the chat, because it would be interesting to know if it's your first time here, if that was what got you in, or if you just saw me tweeting a lot and you thought, okay, I'll jump on his live thing. That's interesting to find out too, you know. Find out where my user funnel is, my listener funnel, or whatever. And of course, you know, whilst we're on the subject of, you know, Patreons and community members and first timers and all that, obviously a cheeky wink to the veterans, you know, the real binfluencer faithful who show up every week, guys. The true Binfluencer cult members who have been here since day dot. I'm talking to you, Kerry. So I'm going to be doing some Q&A tonight, I think, mostly. I'll open it up to you guys, basically, because I've been on a mad booking frenzy to try and line up a few more guests, right, for Friday night shows. But when you go on these sort of booking frenzies and you approach people and you DM them, you can't hassle them or badger them. You want it to be courteous and polite and them to be excited about it. And all of that goes out the window if you go like, so have you thought about it yet? Have you thought? Yeah? So I've invited a few people, but it's, you have to sit back and wait for them to come to, and then you've got to work with people's diaries. And most people book up their Friday nights, weeks or months in advance. So basically, it's just me tonight. But that's fine. Me and you guys in the chat. And I've got kind of attached to doing solo shows now. I used to find them quite daunting. Like the idea of talking for an hour sort of felt a bit like, oh my God, like what if I run out of things to say? What if I run out of things to complain about? Like, I mean, that would never happen. Little did I know at that time, like my sweet innocent mind, like what if I run out of things to rant and ridicule? Little did I know that there's this incredibly giving, comforting institution called the Conservative Party, who are basically like a conveyor belt of cunts. Just a never-ending, relentless stream of scandal and incompetence, week in, week out. Sometimes multiple times that week. So yeah, thankfully, cheers Tories, I never run out of things to say or moan about. But yeah, anyway, back to this show. I'm just going to treat it like it was a sort of, midweek one. When I do just a solo, just the ranting kind of stuff. And I'll just dive in and start ranting to myself. Shall I? Now, stand back while I pour the funny down my throat, the rocket fuel, and start blasting. Here we go. Peter Del Monte, one of my Patreons, is in the chat. He's like, Aid? Running out of things to say? Laughing at me like I'm a complete motor mouth. I could talk for England. Guys, I've had guests on here before where they're like, have you got stuff to tap into, in case we run dry, in case there's some dead air. And I'm just like, that won't be a problem because I can always talk. Anyway, so first up tonight, what shall we talk about? I don't want to go on about Rayner. I don't want to waste time talking about Susan Hall and Sadiq Khan. I don't live in London, so I'm not particularly interested in who the mayor is. I would rather it was Sadiq, but I don't have I don't feel as passionate about that as I do about the national elections, obviously. Plus, the Labour lead nationally at the moment is still pretty strong, so that's fine. We cover that quite often. So I thought tonight, why not get back to our Binfluencer roots, right? And actually, veteran listeners will know that in the earlier episodes, I would always tap in to a story of Americana. A story of the ridiculousness of modern USA, okay? And so tonight, here is a story that I think deserves to be raised and discussed, okay? This is a story to end all... well, maybe not that, but this is a story that should win awards. This should have got the Press Awards statuette last night. All £3.98 worth of plastic. Yeah, I won an award. Wow, looks incredible. Where are you going to put it? Nowhere on show in my house. Give it to my kids; they can play with it. This story is pure Americana, guys. Just like the good old days, like the golden episodes of this pod. It's pure Fox News. I'm surprised I haven't seen this crop up in the Daily Mail yet, like being shared around because of the optics of it, which you're going to see in a second. Also, quick shout to Alex French in the chat there. He's like, we've all got plenty, which is a reference, again, like another golden reference to an episode gone by where I was like ripping into a 1980s pork advert. God, we really do have the veterans in tonight, don't we? What's up, guys? How you doing? So let's get into it, shall we? Here we go. Here's my browser. Ohio man charged with murder after allegedly shooting and killing an Uber driver that he believed was scamming him. Okay? So, let me just read that again for you, right? Ohio man charged with murder after allegedly shooting and killing this Uber driver whom he believed was scamming him. William Brock, 81, is charged in connection to the death of 61-year-old Lolitha Hall. And, you know, like in the sort of intro there, I was being a little bit facetious, if you like, mocking the seriousness of the news story, I suppose. But it's, you know, it's a trashy news story, right? And I mean, like, it's tragic, obviously, don't get it twisted. But it's a sort of, like I'm not saying that the murder is funny, right? Or fun, even. I'm just saying, like, that this is a perfect and ridiculous example, right, of what's wrong with America now, from an outsider's perspective, right? It's got everything. It's got guns, it's got race, it's got, like if you look at the picture, right? If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple, we are looking at a picture right now. Like, look at this picture, chat, people. What story does this picture tell you? Because this is the state of the United States right now, right? We're looking at a picture. There's an older gentleman, and he's wearing a sort of checkered shirt, very American checkered shirt. And there's a black lady in a fleece holding her phone. And the older gentleman, he's got like what looks like a sort of antique gun. He's pointing it at her, right? In a sort of threatening way. And this has been recorded on the dash cam, by the way. They're not posing. And this is the state of the US, right? Basically now, with guns, with race, with Fox News. Like, it's obvious, right? From an outsider's perspective, it's obvious that they need to ban their guns. That is clear to everyone. The rest of the world can all see that. And also, they drastically need to reintegrate themselves. You know, like, they need radical state-sponsored help to get their communities to get on better, I think. But back to this photo, right? The first thing that I see when I see this, right? I look at this old lumberjack shirt white guy who shouldn't own a gun, right? And I see him pointing it at this black woman. And I come away thinking, like, of the entitlement, you know? The entitlement of being that older guy, holding the gun, pointing it at this lady. Like, the feeling that he has the right to usher her around with his gun, you know, like she's subservient or something, or like he has any right whatsoever to arrest or to force her over here or whatever it is that he's doing, you know? Like, it's slavey, isn't it? There's slavey connotations to this. Anyway, let's read on, shall we? And maybe, like, you guys can let me know in the chat, like, your thoughts on this sort of stuff, on this story, on this image. Like, am I being unfair on it? Maybe I'm making a snap judgment on this old cowboy-shirted, probably racist piece of shit. You know, like, maybe I'm being unfair here. Maybe it could be a perfectly reasonable situation and it's me that's jumping to conclusions. It could be that. Like, maybe it's not him that's prejudging her and prejudicing her. Like, actually, it's me that's being the the judgy one here. But what kind of scenario would we have to be talking about, to make this image acceptable? What scenario would make this palatable and acceptable in the modern era? And for it to fit the headline still, Like, he's shot and killed the Uber driver, hasn't he? We know that he's probably done that, allegedly, is what it says. He thought she was scamming him. But actually, he's not racist because, this is the scenario that would have to exist in order for me to be prejudicing him, right? Is he's shot and killed her, but he's not a racist because, even though he thinks scammy taxis should be greeted with a death sentence, it's not about race, and he's definitely not racist because actually he plays in a multiracial jazz quartet or something. Like, it could be, that would maybe sort of get him off the hook or something. But it would still be a weird defense, wouldn't it? It would basically be akin to him saying, like, calm down, guys. I am not a racist. Oh, right, okay. It's just, I saw you in your deliverance get up there and treating that poor woman like a disobedient plantation worker. But it's okay. Yeah, no, I understand. I didn't see the jazz records in your garage over there. Yeah, no, I'm not a racist. I'm not a racist, but I'm just a psychopathically murderous guy whenever I get a bad deal. Oh, okay. Oh, that's much better. Oh, yeah. You should see me when they leave the 2-for-1 deals, the promotion stuff out. I will burn that 7-Eleven down if they try to jip me on a goddamn 2-for-1 deal. Anyway, so, right, we should probably read this actual story, shouldn't we, before jumping to conclusions, before prejudicing him. Shall I go to the chat quickly? Let's go to the chat, see what you guys are saying. Guns in care homes, big brother thing, says Billy Kershaw. I'm gonna call you Pick. Is it Pick a Lil Pit? Says standard American picture. Yeah, pretty much. Guy set himself on fire at the Trump trial. Is that for real? Has that just happened? Do you know what's weird about that? Is like, that seems like a far-fetched story. Like it's something you'd see in The Onion. But now here we are in 2024 and somebody says something like that. And I'm like, that sits within the parameters of modern reality. That could happen. What else have we got? He was reliving his long-lost childhood when he could get away with it, says Jeannie Bottle. Yeah. And Jay says she wasn't scamming him. Uber was. So, okay. Pick a Lil Pit. Sorry, I can't quite see the name there. Pick a Lil Pit says that has happened. Okay. Wow. Breaking news, guys. So maybe we'll come on to that in a second. Mojo Sabian says, this is why satire is dead. Exactly. It's like when I think it's James O'Brien keeps saying, like, it's the satirists I feel sorry for. And he's right. I've put out so much stuff where it's like, an obvious piss take. And people are like, yeah, but is that real? It's like, no, you idiots. It's obviously made up. I'm obviously taking what exists now and exaggerating it, exploding it into the most ridiculous example, like to show you how ridiculous. Oh, right, okay, but I mean, it could happen, couldn't it? Well, yes, that is a fair challenge. Anyway, let's read a little bit more about this. We'll come on to Trump, to the Trump fiery guy in a bit. So it says an 81-year-old man. An 81-year-old Ohio man has been charged with murder after he allegedly shot and killed an Uber driver he thought was trying to scam him. William Brock has been charged with 1 count of murder in the Clark County Municipal Court in connection with the death of the 61-year-old Lalitha Hall. A local CBS station reported that the Clark County Sheriff's Office said last month that Brock called 911 to report that he had shot someone on his South Charleston property who was trying to rob him. Charleston's the place where all, like, I don't want to call them, like, race riots, but there was a thing that happened, wasn't there? And then, or am I mixing that up with somewhere else? Because if it was there, this sort of behaviour is risky. Because I get the feeling like it wouldn't take much to spark another, like, you know, LA riots, Rodney King kind of situation if race relations in that area are that volatile, you know? So he called 911 and he told them that he had shot somebody. First responders arrived on the scene and found Hall on the ground suffering from multiple gunshot wounds and Brock with injuries to his head and his ear. Right, so let's just establish what on earth is going on here, right? So he thinks she's trying to rob him. Okay? He thinks she's trying to rob him. And I mean, maybe I'm just very British, right? I'm very cowardly about this. But I'm a little bit like, so? You know? Like, people in the chat, right? Here's a question for you. People in the chat. If somebody robs you, not even tries to rob you, if they actually rob you, right? Like, if they held you up against a shop window and told you to hand over your wallet or purse and your phone, would you want that person to literally die over that? Do you think that's worth a human life? Because that is quite an, you know, telling answer to that question, I think. Because like, most people have been touched by crime in some capacity, haven't they? Like, I've had car stereos stolen from my car. I had a bass tube in the back of my Fiesta back in the day. That got pinched. I had a pair of £100 Nike Air Hirachis, right? When I was like 11 or 12. They were so cool, right? And we didn't really have the money for that sort of stuff. But I begged my mum for these Nike Air Hirachis. And she begrudgingly, I wore her down and maybe she threw in some birthday money or something to it to make it all right. I wore her down and she bought me these Nike Air Hirachis and I loved them, right? And I went to the roller disco and everybody like stashed their trainers in the little bit and then they put on their roller skates and off they go around the rink. And this was 2 weeks after I got them and they got stolen. Somebody just went into this trainer thing and they were like, oh, I'll have them, right? It's my fault for not like locking them up or finding a locker or hiding them in a bag or something, but I was so gutted, you know. And I'll add a little bit more heartbreak to this story as well. It was the same night, right? The same roller disco night as I got tripped over by one of these like rougher kids, right? I got tripped over at the roller disco while like roller skating around for wearing a Chelsea t-shirt. That's all I did. I didn't know him. I'd never said anything to him. He tripped me over for it. And then he like went round the ring and then he came back again and then he like whispered or like said something to me about like, don't ever come here wearing that t-shirt again. Like, it's so juvenile and weird and tribal and rough and home counties. It's such a stupid thing to start a fight over, you know? And I wasn't even wearing it because I liked Chelsea. I didn't even like football. I just wore the t-shirt because I liked the colours on it. I liked the design of like, it was like a splash of blue paint with a little bit of lighter blue. It was like, it looked quite funky. I was like, oh, I might get that. You know, clueless was I when I was like 11 years old or whatever. So yeah, I got kind of ish assaulted and I lost my favourite brand new pair of trainers. But even then, right? Or if I got mugged or whatever now, even that, like, I don't think I would ever want or feel entitled to want the person responsible for that to die. I just wouldn't. You know, it wouldn't even inhabit my brain. Oh, yeah, he's fucking take him out. Put him in the guillotine. drag him out and feed him to hungry pigs. Like, no! Can I just have my phone back? Can I just have my Hirachis? So it's a bit like, going back to this story, it's a bit like, who cares if she was trying to rob you? I mean, put up a fight if you want. Don't just, hand over your stuff if you're feeling confident that you can handle yourself and that this person is unarmed or whatever. I mean, if it was me, right? If it was me, guys, I'd probably just hand it all over. I'd just hand over my phone and my wallet, my cards. I'd give them the pin. Do you know why? Because what's the point of starting a fight or fighting back? The phone's going to be insured. The cards can get blocked and refunded. You're supposed to risk your life over those two things, really? No, thank you. Not worth it. And besides, right, being a coward has kept me alive for 43 years. Guys, I'm not suddenly going to start being brave now that I've got 2 children to look after. So yeah, anyway, look, just going back to the news story. I suppose my point here is, would you bother putting up a fight? Because I don't think I would, to be honest. And 2, do you think it's right to shoot somebody if they try to rob you or if they're trying to scam you? To literally shoot them to death over just that is so American, isn't it? Like, somewhere in here we're going to read that, he shot her and killed her over something this ridiculous. And then, it's so American. Then he just kicked back with a cigar and a slice of apple pie, and he put on some Tom Petty. Old William Brock. Billy Brock, a true American, a real American. Anyway, it says, a preliminary investigation revealed Brock was the victim of a phone scam. Whoa! Involving a relative who was incarcerated. And the scammer allegedly threatened and demanded money from Brock, from good old Billy Brock. It says Hall, who's the lady who got killed, Hall, who worked as an Uber driver, was looped into the scam after receiving communications from the same scammer who contacted Brock through the Uber application. So this scammer contacts Brock through Uber and contacts Hall through who she is the Uber driver. I'm not really sure what's going on here, but it says the scammers allegedly asked Hall to go to Brock's home to pick up a package for delivery, maybe the cash, I don't know, whatever. But investigators reportedly said Hall did not know about the scam when she drove to Brock's property to pick up the package. Okay, so there was a scam, but she didn't know about it. She's just an Uber driver who's got, caught up in all of this. It says the sheriff's office reportedly said Hall was unarmed and suffering from medical conditions. She also did not make any threats towards Brock, nor any demands, other than to ask for the package that the Uber app sent her to pick up. It says, after Hall arrived at Brock's home, he pulled out a gun and pointed it at her, demanding the identities of the people she spoke to over the phone. So he's crazy at this point. He's like, he knows he's been scammed. This woman comes to pick up the package, whatever that is, and he thinks, right, now I've got you. So he starts pointing the gun at her, saying, like, who did you speak to on the phone? Give me their names, give me their numbers or whatever. It says, a video of the incident captured from a dash camera, which is the image that we saw earlier. It showed Hall walking toward the home, followed by Brock pointing a gun at her. The two walk out of frame before Hall is heard saying, stop, or I'll call 911. Wow, okay, so So this guy he's getting scammed, right? I'll just quickly look in the chat. Sorry, I saw my name in there from Billy Kershaw, and I always worry that when I see my name in the live chat that somebody's like trying to get my attention, like, Aid, we can't hear you. What are you doing? Like there's some sort of tech issue. Pudinator said, Aid, you misunderstood. He was actually flirting with you and just wanted to see you shirtless. Wait, you were 11. Okay, my joke is way too inappropriate now. Sorry. Yes, you're right. It is. It is inappropriate, Pudinator. But I'll let you off because you've been in here a few times and you seem like a good egg. Yes, I mean, obviously you're referencing the Chelsea T-shirt thing. It was really threatening, man. It was like, don't ever wear that T-shirt here again. And it's like, I'm always fascinated by the abuse and the confidence of people. You know, I can't speak for people who grew up in London where like things can get really serious really quickly. But in Maidenhead and, you know, Slough, Burnham, all of these places sort of around Berkshire, Buckinghamshire, like there are pockets of kind of dangerous people. I've met some people who know very dangerous people. So I know that life, it does exist in pockets, right? But it's, you know, it's quite few and far between. It's quite rare. But I'm always amazed by the anger, the abuse, and the confidence of people who start fights with someone like me having no idea who I know or who I might be. You know, like if you trip me over at the roller disco and you say, don't ever come here again wearing that T-shirt, it's like, how do you know I'm not going to just skate off to my big brother who's like a 19-year-old armed, tooled up drug dealer, and he's going to walk over to you and grab you by the scruff of the neck and give you a really bad night? You know, how do you know that that's not going to be the next chapter of this story? It's the arrogance and the confidence to just know nothing's going to happen to you as a result is always what gets me. Anyway, we're going slightly off on a tangent here. So let's get back to this story, shall we? So he's getting scammed. He thinks he's caught the scammer. But then, do you know what? Still, guys, you know, I'm sorry if this makes me sound like a bleeding heart liberal, right? A real cliche. But in a civilized society, people, I don't care if your relative is incarcerated, or if you hate being scammed, or if you wear cowboy shirts and you own goofy musket guns. I'm sorry, but you don't get to shoot people. However infuriating it is that they might be scamming you, you don't get to do that in a civilized society. So anyway, he leads around the side of the house, right? And she starts screaming. And then check this, right? We're gonna go down to the next bit. So it says a gunshot immediately gets fired, and Brock says, "Nope, you're not leaving," and demanding her to give him the phone. It says Hall can be heard screaming for help. 5 more shots then happen, followed by Brock again ordering her to give him the phone. Hall continues to scream, and the dash footage captured Brock saying he would shoot her in the head. Like, how can you read this story, right, or hear me reading it? How can you hear about this story and think that this is anything other than a racist old white guy, right, who is incensed that his plantation worker isn't obeying him, right? That is the connotations here. She's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Well, I've gone Australian there. I'm getting the fuck out of here. I mean, she could be Australian. I don't think she is. She's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. You're insane, you know, like that sort of thing. And he's like, nope, you're not going anywhere. Like, why does he have the right to say that? Why does he have to kill her? It's absolutely insane How can any American look at this and tell me with a straight face that this isn't categorically, certifiably batshit? He gets to kill her over that because he thinks he might be getting scammed and he's added two together and got 5? Yeah, I totally get to kill her now. All right, okay. Land of the free, indeed. And even if she was in on it, right, which she isn't, according to this piece. But even if she were, just let her have the money. Do you know what? Like, just let the actual scammers have the money, right, that they're scamming you by. Just let them keep it. And if you find yourself down a few grand, right, here's what you do. You can just phone an elderly Conservative Party aide and demand that she transfers her own savings to you to get you out of a hole with these bad people, right? That's your other option. You could do that. Let's go to the chat, man. Let's see what you guys are making of it. I'm going to actually have to go to the proper chat window now to sort of scroll back. There's been loads going on. Sorry, bear with me 2 seconds. Guys. It's the hold music. Ba 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 ba. Moonfest Madness says bring 6 foot. Bring 6'3" and 20 stone. Being 6'3" and 20 stone, I never get that problem. But no life is worth it. Base tube. How old are you? Base tube. Yeah. Well, when I was talking about that stuff, base tube. I am sort of going back a few years now. Like this is when I was like, I guess I would have been about 18. That's age appropriate for a base tube in the back of a car, isn't it? How old am I now? I'm 43. So definitely too old for a bass tube. Although I was listening to some very bassy hip hop earlier, like going to the shop, coming back from the shop, going to the nursery. I am the most gangster 43-year-old IT worker, father of 2, outside the nursery that you have probably ever seen. You know, that's my award. Forget the press awards. Forget Dan Hodges. Forget the best front page of 2024. My award, with a little plastic statuette, most gangster IT dad, I think. Should put that on a cup or a mug. Jabub says, no, I'd just hope their next shit was a hedgehog. Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about, Jabub. Good old, just let them get on with it. I always look at it a little bit like twat tax. You know, I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about twat tax before. But it's this idea that, like, if you lend somebody £10, they're like, oh, you couldn't shout me a tenner, could you? If you lend them a tenner and then you get it back the next week, great. You know, you got your tenner back, you did a good deed, your mates, good stuff. But if you lend somebody £10, they're like, oh, forgot to get cash out of the machine. Could you shout me tenner just until I go to the cash machine? So you lend them a tenner and then, you know, they don't give it back to you next week. And you go, oh, if you got that tenner I lent you the other way. And then they go, oh, yeah, I'll get it out for you later. And then you don't get it back, right? Gradually, it gets more and more awkward. And eventually, they avoid you, right? This hasn't happened to me for years, but it has happened. And eventually, what I came to the conclusion of was like, you should look at it like twat tax. Is that all it cost you to get that person out of your life forever was £10. You have effectively paid that person £10 to leave you alone forever. And if anything, probably a fucking bargain with people like that. I'd rather pay them a tenner and they leave me alone forever than it be like, you know, maybe we become closer friends and then I have to invest in their pyramid scheme in a year's time and I get gypped for like 10 grand or something. So yeah, helps if you look at it like twat tax. Tracy Birch says, no one needs to die in that scenario. My petrol got nicked once. Do you know what? It surprises me that more people don't get petrol stolen. You know, because it is pricey. Oil isn't going to get any cheaper anytime soon. I suppose if it was going to happen, it would happen about now, just before everyone moves over into like electric cars. After which, obviously, it's less of a problem. But it's, yeah, I don't know. It hasn't happened yet, has it? But I would have expected that it would do. or would have done. Alex French says, I got banged up once. Alex, tell us what you did. What did you do? I got arrested for drunk driving when I was, how old was I? I was 25, 26. And I had an incredibly bad week. Worse than the roller disco. It was like, I had a really bad week. And it's not really an excuse. I wouldn't blame it on that. I had done it before, but not got caught. It was pretty reckless. And then on this occasion, I did get busted. And I lost my license for like 18 months. I didn't bother getting it back for years because I'd moved to London, so I didn't need a car. And so I always go a little bit easy on people who have got busted for that, because I can understand that in the wrong set of circumstances with the right set of variables, or vice versa, you can end up making a very bad decision. And it is just through the grace of God that I did not injure anyone or hurt anyone. And I've never done it again. So I don't know. Was it the punishment that taught me to never do it again, or was it the shame, or did I just grow out of it? Did my frontal lobe develop after that? Who could say? Mojo Sabian said, and you had to walk home in your socks? This is presumably also about the roller disco. The roller disco has really resonated with you guys, hasn't it? No, my mum picked me up, and I said to her, I think someone's stolen my trainers. And the worst part about it was, like, I knew that she was really upset that she had bought these quite decent trainers for me, and I was obviously in love with them. I loved these trainers, and then somebody stole them, and she didn't even bollock me. Like, when you're young and you expect your parents to just read you the riot act, and then when they don't, it's like it's even worse. It's like, can you just shout at me, just ground me, just tell me I'm useless. And she was like that. It's just a silent, like, ride home after that. You know what a fitting punishment would have been? Is, like, in lieu of my trainers, she should have made me wear my roller skates everywhere for the next 6 weeks or whatever. Billy Kershaw says, excellent point, Aid. Keep body swerving. I'm not sure what that relates to. Tim Ballum says, diesel thefts have been common for years. Have they? Why diesel and not unleaded? Interesting. Anyway, let's get back to the show, back to the story. Where was I? What was I talking about? Oh, right, the sort of quasi or like pseudo racist murder of this woman, right? Maybe we'll come to the end of that now. I don't know. What else is going on? There's a lot of talk about a summer election, isn't there? It's been bubbling up the last few days. I had a couple of conservative canvassers come to my door earlier. Anybody else been canvassed, doorstepped by Tory activists, Tory campaigners? I was driving back from the shops, right, while blaring out my hip-hop, obviously. I was driving back from the shops, and I saw them working their way up the street. And I was like, oh, yes! Like, you're just waiting for these guys to doorstep so you could just, I could film it, I could turn it into a TikTok, I could, So I see them, like, with their blue stuff on and, like, clipboards and all of that. I'm like, yes, okay, time to shine. And, I really did. I had Mr. Burns levels of evil just, like, bubbling up. Just a Machiavellian smirk dancing across my face. So it was. And I pulled into the drive, right? And I walked into the kitchen and I said to my son, I was like, in about 5, maybe 10 minutes, you are going to hear me using some very colourful language at the door. He's 7, by the way. You're going to hear Daddy speak very rudely, very abusive, and it's not okay to say any of these words and this stuff, and you should never talk to people like I'm about to talk to people, but I am going to talk to people like that, and I'll explain it in a bit why it's necessary, right? And he's like, why? What are you going to say? And I'm just like, just wait. Just don't keep asking me about it, but just wait, and then I'll do it, and then I'll explain it afterwards. And so we wait, right? We wait and we wait. And in my mind, I've pictured, right, what's going to happen. I've built it up like it's a movie scene, thinking about how I could edit it and then put it onto YouTube. You know, in my mind, I've already constructed what is going to happen. I've had 10 minutes to think about what I'm going to say. You know, it's got to be something cutting, hasn't it? It's got to be something creative and, you know, quite colourful, but probably quite rude. Also, you know, like they'll knock on the door and they'll say, yeah, hi, is it, you know, they'll clipboard there. Is it Adrian? And I'll be like, yes, it is. And they'll go, okay, can we count on your support for the local elections? And I'll be like, oh, you can count on one hand the number of seconds you have to get off my driveway before I, Chelsea Smile, you both, you and your friend, with that clipboard. You Groupon golf club cunts. Just film it. And then when they try to leave the driveway, I'll be like, oh no, you ain't leaving. You ain't going nowhere. Pull out my musket as well. I don't know. But then here's the part that, you know, broke my heart, right? So you picture this thing. You've got the idea of what you're going to say. It's going to be really cool. And you're going to film it. And then here comes there's a knock at the door, like bop, bop, bop. And I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. So I walk up. I'm like G'd up. I'm ready to do it. And I open the door. And this really nice, friendly-looking black lady was there. And she was like, hi, my name's Peace. Literally her name was Peace. How can you go to war on the doorstep with a nice black lady called Peace? And she's like, I'm just doing some, you know, door-to-door stuff for the Conservative Party. I just wondered if we could count on your support for, I think his name's Jev or Jeb or something. And I was disarmed. I was like, no, I really don't think so. She was like, okay, all right, well, thanks for being honest. See you later. And then she like turned around and I was like, oh God, this was my time, man. You've ruined this content piece. Anyway, I suppose we should talk very quickly. We're running out of time a little bit here, guys. It's been an hour already. Can you believe that? I told you I could talk for England, didn't I? Should we talk about this guy that set himself on fire at the Trump trial? Let's have a quick look at that, shall we? Trump set on fire, I guess you would search for. Let's have a wee look. Person apparently set self on fire outside Trump trial in New York. Images of person in flames shown on television and social media amid ex-president's hush money trial. Jesus Christ. A man set himself on fire on Friday lunchtime outside the Lower Manhattan courthouse where Donald Trump is on trial in a hush money case. Pictures of the person in flames were carried live on television and spread on X. The incident occurred just as Judge Juan Merchan was recessing for lunch on the third day of the trial. It happened in a fenced-off area of the plaza, close to where small numbers of protesters have gathered each day since the trial began. Videos showed what appeared to be a man kneeling on the ground, waving his arms as flames engulfed him. My God. I mean, I know it's not the lesson that we're supposed to take from this. You know, we all take our own lessons, our own things from every news story. But I just want to say that this is the level of culty adulation that I'm looking for from my Patreon. If I should ever find myself in any sort of legal bother, perhaps another drink driving case. I'm just saying, this is what I need. I need people outside the courtroom setting themselves on fire, slain to my glory. I mean, how loved up on the Kool-Aid do you have to be to set yourself... Like, does he think Trump is actually Jesus and that this is some sort of, like, crucifixion that's going on? Is that what this is? Can any of us, any people in the live chat, can you tell me one person in the world you would fall to your knees and set yourself on fire for? Because honestly, I don't want to sound like, it's all about me and like live selfishly and all of that. But I struggle to think of one, but I would do it for my kids. If I thought that doing that would save the lives of my children, I would do it for my kids. But how weird and warped and devoid of self do you have to be to put so much faith and love into a false prophet who weirdly, paradoxically, claims to be a Christian? How drunk on the Kool-Aid do you need to be to put that much of yourself into this orange Jesus character to the point where you think you need to set yourself on fire? It is so crazy. What else has been going on, man? There was one more thing I wanted to talk about, which was Rishi Sunak. I don't know if you guys saw this. Rishi Sunak is pledging to remove benefits for people who won't take a job after 12 months. He's pledging to remove benefits. So forget about your welfare, forget about universal credit, incapacity benefit, or whatever the case may be. He will remove those benefits for people not taking jobs after 12 months. Or at least that's what he's saying he wants to do. Can he still get this sort of change in legislation through in the few little time he's got left? Probably not. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a bit fast and loose, isn't it? Talking about how cruel he wants to treat jobless people when he's this close to an election where he's sailing 20 points behind. It's like, how many of your MPs are going to be jobless in 6 months, Rish? How many of them are going to be thrown on the scrap heap with your abysmal polling for both the party and yourself? How many of them are going to end up long-term unemployed? Who's going to employ Jonathan Gullis after the GE? Who's going to come for Ben Bradley? Who's going to look after Ben Bradley, man? And, the others, Scott Benton, James Daly. Who's going to hire them after they lose their seats in the election? I mean, put yourself in the shoes of Jonathan Gullis. Probably not Nike Air Hirachis. I'm just going to say that. Put yourself in the shoes of Scott Benton, James Daly. Because it must be a crunch point, right? If you imagine yourselves as them, I know that's a disturbing exercise, but just bear with me. Imagine that you are Jonathan Gullis, right? That must be a real crunch point for his principles. Because he wants to be cruel to the povs, doesn't he? James Daly wants to be cruel to the povs and the plebs. But also, that's why they all come out with this stuff about, like, Ben Bradley said about, like, oh, don't give the free school meals to the kids because they'll only sell the stuff and then go and spend it on crack or brothels or something. It was something along those lines, wasn't it, with Ben Bradley? Something about crack dens and brothels and people spending their welfare money in there. Jonathan Gullis called whole areas of his own constituency shitholes, didn't he? Or, like, there was some sort of scathing comment. It was a part of a video. He was filmed, like... Anyway, my point is, they all want to be cruel to broke, struggling people. But also, they must be tempted at this stage, right? When Rishi Sunak is announcing policies like this, they must be tempted to pull Rish aside and be like, actually, I know it's not the most conservative thing I've ever said, but Rish, is it too late to expand the welfare proposition? Is it too late to make it a bit more generous for those who are looking for work and remain unemployed after 12 months? I mean, I'm sure that this point has been made by people way more eloquent and articulate than I. But I do think there's something there's something that's missed by the Conservatives in CCHQ, to the strategy guys, to the donors, to whoever it is that's influencing policies like this, right? The thing that seems to be missing there is, like, if you don't want people signed off sick for anxiety, then probably a good starting point would be to stop giving them reasons to feel constantly, unresolvedly anxious. You know? How's your mortgage payments going, Aid? I don't know. I've got a real unshakable, apprehensive chest feeling going on. How about your energy bills? Are you in energy debt? Yep. Also, not feeling particularly good about that, actually. If you want to stop people being signed off for anxiety, stop giving them reasons to be anxious. If you want people to be stopped getting signed off for depression, stop making their entire lives depressing. You know? And you know what? Just to finish off, right? Because we're running a little bit short on time now. If you are one of these people, if you are signed off long-term sick, right? Maybe you get severe bouts of depression. Maybe you're signed off, ongoing, treated, prescribed, all that stuff for depression. I just want to give you some good news, okay? Because you read stories like this, it can get you down even more. So I want to leave you with an uplifting thing, right? I want to try to uplift the depressed. So, if that's you, if you're off sick, guys, and you have a bleak worldview, if you constantly feel down, if you're on prescription, you feel hopeless, if you're constantly depressed, hopefully this, what I'm about to say, will perk you up a bit. When I tell you that you are right. You're right. Just take strength and solace and joy in that when you look out the window in the morning, you go, oh God, this country is absolutely irredeemably fucked. The planet is fucked. Oh my God, we are all I don't see how we're going to go. You're right. You're bang on. Depressed is actually the correct state to be in. Guys, I'm going to quickly jump back into the chat. Alex French says, world's gone mad, Aid. Yes, it has. Tim Balance says, Mind has posted an anti-Tory, I guess, video after their comments today. Yeah, I love Mind, actually. I used to donate to them, and then I changed my bank account. I should really set that up again. Really important. Like, when people say, do you give much to charity? I always looked at Mind as, like, top of the list of the charities that I wanted to do stuff for or to work for. So if ever I do, like, a charity initiative, it will probably be for them. Mojo Sabian says, we're all going to die a horrible, horrible death. Feel better now, he says. Yeah, I mean, look, there is strength, there is joy to be found in knowing that you were right, that you had an accurate, perceptive take on how things actually are. And if you can look at the news and look at climate change and fossil fuel scarcity and nuclear war and instability in the Middle East and Tory corruption, if you can look at all of that and walk away from it and go like, yeah, it won't be so bad, good for you. But it is not an accurate perception to come away with. Billy Kershaw says, woodpecker gallows humour. Yeah, that's what we're all here for, right? Guys, I've got to go. Sorry. I will be in the Discord chat with the Patreons, with the community members from now until just after 9 when I join Labour Social. If you haven't jumped on Labour Social before, that's run by Graham Hughes. There's a few frequent faces. We jump in there most Friday nights. If you're not on the YouTube or the YouTube community yet, if you check the description to this one below, there are links to both of those, and it starts at just like £3 a month. There's sort of, cascading or sliding benefits. And if you don't want to add to your subscriptions, if you're not in a position to, to sign up to Patreon or whatever, you can always tap the 3 dots and drop me a little tip in the tip cup with the super thanks or super chat features. You could just put like £2 in or £3 in, and I'll buy a beer with it, like I bought these ones with a couple of them before. So cheers. Thanks very much for tuning in, guys. I'm here every Friday night. Until next time, keep it booge, and we are out this mother hubbard.